Hey, welcome into the Altcoin show. Today we're going to dive into all of our analysis on that, of course, with Evan. And we're going to get into some interesting tokens for you. We will have a full rundown. It's going to be a good one. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. All right, let's get into it today. Before I get started, though, I want to thank our sponsor, and that, of course, is Ledger. Ledger is, I think, the source for self-custody. And what I would suggest, if you guys don't, maybe you don't want the Ledger stacks. I know it's a little pricey. But if you do, if you really want the all-out ability to showcase your NFTs, all sorts of tokens and assets, jump into the Ledger stacks. I think they're going to be shipping that very soon. But if not, you can also get into some of the other products, the Nano X, the Nano S Plus. All of these are great devices, but the number one thing you should be doing is self-custody. So check out Ledger. Just use our link down below. All right. Evan, welcome back in, man.
Good always great to be on.
Finally back in the studio every week and
it's
chilling.
I love it.
I like it. Yeah. We're going to get into a few things today. I want to go into our first story, and this, of course, is Audius. We're going to be doing a full video on this, but really the scenario plays out is that Audius has now integrated into, as you guys know, into TikTok, and this is a big deal. I think we're going to continue to see these streaming platforms start to integrate more and more into social. The question will be, how does it start to go into additional rollouts out there? And I think the scenario that plays into this for what Audius is doing, and obviously Audius is doing a little bit of a pump right now, but if you look at the chart, what are you seeing right now as far as just Audius in general?
Yeah, so Audius kind of looks pretty cool right now. Looks like on this daily time frame here, we might get just a little bit more. And if you look at this VWAP coming up right here, it could kind of repeat like this green dot where it came up there to give us a little bit more. We do have a pretty big fib level at around 43, 44 cents. So, this is a very volatile one. It's going to be risky, but maybe a quick trade in and out, about 30%. And if you zoom out a little bit here, you look at this area, which is really big. I'd be careful, though, because we're hitting into a lot of traffic right here. This is
pricing setting at 35, though. That's been up quite a bit for the day.
Yeah, it already is up for the day, so I'd be careful. The other thing that I'm looking for a potential top, if you zoom in here on the 2-day, what we're about to print, see the VWAP curving down here, you're going to get a red dot. That's going to give you a bearish div, which these are strong indications that it is the top here, kind of like how we had over here. Now, I don't know if you're going to come down this much, obviously. That would be pretty depressing, but, it would make sense to have, a drop down if we get another pump up and then get that big, bullish div over here, get that drop up and then come down. Obviously, be careful. You could easily hit the top over here. Price likes to stick to this point and then come right back down.
Yeah, so you look at sentiment on Audius right now on the CPI. This is a very interesting token because it has taken a bit of a run right here. The big spike, of course, was in top line sentiment over the past few days, and of course today up 63.06. Interesting thing is that the amplification is starting to track with it, and both of these now are performing over market average. So as you're saying, this might be a chance for a swing trade,
Mostly, yeah.
Hopefully you guys were maybe got in on this earlier today, and maybe it's a good one. But this is also one of the bags that I hold long term.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things of the Web3 projects that I do look at. Audius is one that I do hold on a long-term basis. Another one, of course, is Avalanche. Tencent Cloud now signs multiple collaboration deals with a variety of blockchain firms. Some of them you're going to recognize, but the big one to me is the one right here, and that is Cloud said it reached a strategic cooperation agreements with 3 other blockchain partners. This included Avalanche, Scroll, and Sui. All of this, I think, is going to be gearing toward Web3 applications. Remember, Avalanche has done a lot in trying to move. This is their Avalanche Studio group. They're trying to move to more of an active gaming ecosystem, and with the connection to Tencent, and we won't say names here, but you guys probably already know, there's a lot of tie-in there that might be playing Avalanche's strength, to Avalanche's strength. So interesting, though the charts have not necessarily shown Avalanche taken off because of this. What are you showing right now?
Yeah, Avalanche is looking a little weak right now at the moment. It looks like we may not be able to make it higher than our highs around February 1st, because if you look at what happened here on the daily time frame, we made a higher high here, and then this, see with the bearish dip right there, money flow started coming out. We did get a little rally upward, but now we're getting the red dot. That confirms in 5 hours. So that's a decent shot that you may have topped out here. And if we look at the lower time frames, what's about to happen on the 3-hour right here is we're about to do the same thing we did back here on February 3rd before we had, this drop down. So if you repeat this area, which I think is pretty likely, and you also got the blood diamond here, if you're not familiar, that's a pretty big bearish sign on the 3-hour and above, you would have a trajectory into March 4th, into early March at around $15. So you can have a decent pullback with this one, about 20%. And I do think, I do think this is kind of hanging on by just a little bit here. If I zoom out, look at that general trajectory. It kind of seems like we're going to test these lower areas at least one more time here. So I would be more cautious on this one, especially.
Well, you look at sentiment, and I think, ironically, not always do our sentiment charts agree with the trade charts, but
right.
Sentiment on Avalanche right now has been falling since the 20th, and it's been diving pretty heavily this week. The big issue is that the amplification is getting ready to, looks like it's going to submerge underneath the overall market. If that occurs, typically what we've seen is tokens from a downward trend is that's when we start to see some of the scenarios where you can do some entries again if you're doing swing trades. So Avalanche again, not a lot of heavy PR on this Tencent deal. Maybe there's something brewing with Avalanche and Tencent that could possibly integrate something that they would generate some PR for. I just don't know. But for it to not pop was a little bit surprising for me. I mean, if you look at just stacks alone, is a good example. That one has been just absolutely off the chart. Which we're going to go into stacks. Stacks, of course, soars as Bitcoin ordinal craze is driving network building momentum. We've talked about this not only over in our Diamond Circle over on Substack, but we've done a couple of videos on this one as well. And Stacks has been in and out. We've traded this one in and out. It is part of our trade package, which we do in our mastermind group all the time. You can jump into that or join in on the on the Diamond Circle very easily. We'll leave a link below on that. But with Stacks, currently and by the way, it's on the CPI now. With this one, how do you like this one? Because this looks like a green chart all the time.
Yeah, just a straight up chart, which we do tend to see this in the run. So we're about to hit this big area at 91 cents right here. We're getting a very high anchor wave on the daily, which is usually a decent indication that you're at the top or getting close to it. When you have something go hyperbolic like this, it's not out of the question to go higher and then hit this golden pocket, go up maybe another 50%. That's kind of the highest I could see it hitting, this area, and you're going to hit a lot of traffic over here. So I think you're going to get a decent pullback there. If it's not this red dot on the daily that gives us a top, I think it's probably going to be the next one. I mean, you're up a ton. You do have a green dot here on the 10-hour, which could kind of continue this trend just a little bit more, like not as much as the last green dot. That'd be insane, but probably a repeat of something like this, what we already saw, another 30% potentially, but it's going to be risky. Yeah, maybe 50% the absolute most, but that's a stretch. And then you're trying to see money flow come out on these lower time frames. If it's a trajectory like this, you would see, somewhat of a correction here, 23% downward. So on all the altcoins right now, given that we're hitting such major points on Bitcoin, the 25K, and we're starting to come down, I wouldn't be, other than trying to get in and get out, chase the pump a little bit and get right out, I wouldn't be doing much more than that, especially hitting this big point right here.
Yeah. With that, Coinbase drops, build on base today. That was kind of one of the big news topics. Optimism was up 6.5% here. Obviously, as Coinbase now is building its layer 2 on the platform. So optimism showing some movement here, but I'd love to get you guys' feedback. Do you think this is a good thing for Coinbase in general? Could it draw in a lot more developers? Is it kind of just like a Binance wannabe? What is your thought on it? Drop some comments down below. Drop some questions over on the side. But first of all, make sure and hit the like button right now. If you do like these altcoin rundowns where we do sentiment and charts, kind of the battling numbers here, let us know by hitting the like button. Optimism. Is there any optimism?
So the thing here that you want to look at on the 2-day, what I like to look at is you have a big bearish div on a high time frame like this, which is usually the top. I mean, it's a high likelihood it is a top unless you enter a crazy bull run. I know some people think that would happen, but with the Fed and everything going on in the world, I don't think so. to go higher. You had your higher place, little jump up here, but I still think ultimately this area, the 320, was probably the top. With the good news though, you do have a fib level here that's going to be a a negative 6.168618 fib level, which is a good place when you're in price discovery mode to try to find the top here. That's going to be about 340 almost for one more jump up. What I'm looking at too, you do have a green dot in the daily. Once you get the next red dot in the daily and money flow starts to come out more here, I think ultimately you're probably topped out. Wouldn't surprise me if you come up a little bit more, but I think a lot of this move has already happened. 10-hour, these time frames, not looking too promising. Money flow generally coming out, getting into the red. So,
yeah. I don't know if this is going to be one of those that sticks around. In the article, it talks a little bit about their Layer 2 blockchain. It won't feature a native token, unlike other Layer 2 blockchains such as Polygon. The Pricematic, was an example of that. But remember that this isn't Coinbase's really first run into things like that. They did an NFT token marketplace last year. Not a lot of traffic. In fact, it's still, I would say, one of the lower ranking NFT marketplaces out there. So that one in its own, just be cautious. I think whether or not we see some development on it, that's still yet to come. Maybe this will start to become something very special. But with Coinbase, you have to kind of wait and see for a lot of these.
Yep.
Blur has been the marketplace to watch. Blur comes in and now overtakes OpenSea, as we've seen Ethereum NFT trading absolutely go nuts here.
Yep.
Do you feel like the NFT market has separated away from traditional crypto?
I feel like it's the same thing as a lot of these altcoins we've looked at that just had crazy, nice pumps up. So I don't think it's separated away from it. I think it's just a much more volatile version. And I think ultimately, right now to FOMO into the NFT marketplace right now, not the best idea. But I do think 6 to 12 months, there's going to be a really good buying opportunity there.
Well, Blur's got another, I think it's another airdrop V2 coming up, or their season 2, as they're calling it. So that might be interesting and may give it some more life. As far as the token itself, what are you seeing with that in terms of the charts?
So there's not too much data because it's so new, but what I can show you is one potential for a repeat of what we saw here. Into the green with money flow, you came into the red, this was a big drop down. I traced it out from here, you can see the same thing. I think there's potential to kind of repeat this area into, towards the end of the month, the next 5 days or so, around 60 cents. I know it's a volatile kind of trajectory, but you're seeing like kind of a head and shoulders right here. And if you break down from that head and shoulders and get a trend line out, your technical target is going to be, if you break the neckline, at least at like 70 cents here. See this area, there's a little bit of support at 75 cents. So kind of seems inevitable that you would retest it at some point here, especially if ETH comes down as well. So
yeah, and we've got some new data on Ethereum as we get into that. I want to talk about Bitcoin a little bit on strengthening. And you and I had this conversation before the show of what that dominance might look like over the next 6 months to a year. You look at a couple of things that are markers. One, of course, is bank adoption or activity, I should say. But 130 banks now actively involved in crypto. This was a study that was put out just here recently. This surprises me in the sense that I guess it doesn't surprise me. The point I got on with John Deaton this morning when we dropped that video, John and I kind of had this conversation of why the SEC is really doing the kind of moves that it's doing. And his point was very point blank, and that was the SEC is on the side of the banks. They've got them in their back pocket. That's the reason we're starting to see that. But the minute that we start to see banks move into this, that's when we could see scenarios play into this, like an ETF, like scenarios where institutional capital starts to move, which could lean into your Bitcoin dominance theory. What is your thought about dominance? Because that's going to affect ETH in a big way.
Yeah, so I think, I know it's going to hurt a lot of the feelings of the ETH people, but I think ultimately, if we look at Bitcoin dominance here, I've never seen a chart more, but it's been a while since I've seen a chart this bullish on the monthly on a high time frame. Look at back here, look at this trend line. We bounced off of this pretty nicely, double bottom pattern, and you could see bullish div right there, money flow coming up. And if we look back here, I don't think it's going to be as big as this move back in April 2019. Keep in mind, this was when we already bottomed out in that bear market and re-entered the accumulation phase. You still came up another 35% for Bitcoin dominance. Now, let's see where that would take us to. 35%. I don't think we're going to come up that much. That would be 60%. I think that's probably the highest I could see Bitcoin dominance going. But you could easily come up to see this area right here at about 55 in the next, 6 to 12 months by the end of the year, maybe into early next year. And I think what'll be a big catalyst for that is one, a lot of the big money, they're going to buy Bitcoin, maybe some Ethereum, but I think mainly Bitcoin, and also stablecoin regulation. I think some stablecoins may get a lot of fear with the regulation. I think some alts as well may bleed a lot with the regulation coming up.
Yeah. With the price of Bitcoin right now, if you look at sentiment, it was hovering right around here where we had basically clipped the 25K mark multiple times. We hit it 3 times, I think.
Right.
And this is that little bump right here where it's flying well above market and been holding. But here in the last week, we've started to see this slight dip down here to 66 and holding on that. With that being the case, with a little bit of that moving downward, if you look at, let me jump up here to the Bitcoin chart. Those are the kind of those 2 points we were hitting at earlier. Let me jump out here of basically dipping into that 25 range over the past few weeks. Do you think that 25 range is a possibility again?
So yeah, it's tough to say. I think the most important thing that we should realize is 25K is the 200 weekly moving average, which is probably the most important place that we want to keep an eye on here, because let me just show you it on my chart real quick. And this was the bottom here back in this bear market. If you even go way back, it still was. If you go on a bigger chart, it was the bottom in even 2015, that area too. I mean, other than wicks below, was the bottom of the pandemic. So it's such an important area. It seems like we're kind of, based on what I'm seeing on this daily, we're kind of going to reject from it, because if you look at right here, here's a pretty big bearish div with money flow coming out. That's usually, especially in a high time frame, a time frame this high, that's usually a big trajectory that we could come down farther. And if you look at some of these time frames here, money flow coming out, you see the same, bearish div with the money flow finally coming out. So that could absolutely, bring us down to the 22 area. And if you look at, I believe the way I was mapping it out was based on kind of this trajectory on some of these time frames. You look at money flow crossovers kind of on the 6 hour. I mean, the last time we saw a money flow crossover give us a big drop down, about 22, 23% down. Let's see where that takes us to. That's 12% at 21. If you come down 21, 22%, high 19s. Now that's going to take longer than this. I would map that out towards about a month, towards like the end of March, right around this spiral line. This is the most likely scenario.
Your feeling is 19 in 19 is in the cards within the next 30.
Yeah, I think most likely.
All right, interesting.
Most likely.
With Ethereum, where would that leave Ethereum's play? Because it's setting, I mean, the interesting thing when you look at just the sentiment data, this is the thing that really kind of shocked us this week, was how quickly Ethereum adjusted off top line sentiment. Even though amplification is kind of somewhat flat, but top line sentiment dropped significantly. We started to see a little bit of a move downward for Ethereum. Do you think that plays out in a bad way for Ethereum in the charts?
Yeah, I do, based on the charts. Because if we look at, I think Ethereum probably, if Bitcoin drops 20, Ethereum's probably going to be at minimum 25, most likely 30. And I think you could get a trajectory kind of like here with this money flow crossover on, on the 6 hour right here. That's 27% down. We're seeing the money flow crossover right there. That's the same bearish divergence I was telling you about on Bitcoin. If you come down, 25, 26, 27%, you're right back here stuck on the same exact area, 27 right there. That's 1200. So that's what I think is ultimately pretty likely here. We also have what's even stronger for a bearish sign on Ethereum. On the 2-day, we are now printing a big bearish div right here, 5 hours to confirm. Fun fact, let's just go back. This is the last thing I'll show you. Let's go back to our, rally in the accumulation phase back in 2019. What ended it was a bearish div with money flow coming out right around here. Also, this was just about a bearish div, but money flow wasn't really coming out just yet at this point over here. So you had one last leg up. It wouldn't surprise me if you do have another leg up, to liquidate a lot of the shorts, but kind of the way I'm looking at it, there's just not enough shorts to really be liquidated for it to be worth it for them to bring it up, kind of higher than this. It seems like we're going to come down, in my opinion.
Well, and it has been, it has been, of course, this 1700 has been a high in the local market for a bit. So for us to see the sentiment fall off on that, it tells me that we could see either coming back down to that base of around 1550, all the way back down to these resistance points you're pointing out, which is in the 13 to 12 range. So interesting stuff right now. I want to jump over to the poll, and we'll take a look at that today, and then, of course, take some questions from you guys. All right, what's the current sentiment on altcoin prices? Bullish, 47%. Wow. Neutral, 31, so not too many bears out there in the altcoin arena. Interesting. All right. Yeah. I think there's a lot that within altcoins, because of a lot of the news, because this is right now a PR cycle going into the spring, you get a lot of projects that strategically will release things based on date, and it's something that is done in the marketing industry for eons of understanding. It's when people start looking up for things. Spring cleaning is in. Everybody wants to drop their news in the spring, and when you start seeing PR like that, typically you're going to see a little bit of altcoin rumbling, much like what we've seen with Blur, Optimism, Audius.
You got to pay attention to the fundamentals, because a lot of them are still bleeding against Bitcoin. I mean,
exactly, yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into some questions. You have the pad
let's
today.
See here. So, will ETH flip Bitcoin? That's a good one. Maybe next cycle, but it's probably going to take years, I think. What do you think, Paul?
I'm kind of on the same camp.
Yeah.
It's just the beast of Bitcoin as it is. Now, granted, there's always the argument of ordinals in this whole situation with Taproot and what we might see in some sort of sidechain potential future. The core is still, Bitcoin is still the alpha dog. I think it's going to be a tough one to overcome. Even though Ethereum, I mean, you look at this right here. I was going to show you guys just the burn right now on Ethereum. You're going to continue to see this. And look at this. Base already, just recently introduced, already burning 213 ETH.
Yeah.
Pretty significant. This is just over the last day. Blur, of course, number one right now, started to fly right past OpenSea. But this is, it's good. If you guys aren't following Ultrasound Money, check it out. It's from the guys over at Bankless. They do a good job on that one. What else do we got?
Let's see here. So somebody's asking me, am I still expecting 500 ETH? I do think still, based on how things look in the charts, what I showed you bleeding against Bitcoin, I do think we're going to end up somewhere, probably worst possible case scenario, 300, best case around 700. Right now, things could change, but that's what I think.
I am on the other camp. I don't think ETH dips much under the 1,000 mark. If we get a low again, providing, and that's on the very, very bearish case.
ETH is volatile. You could come down to 700.
I think there's too much news coming, and the NFT marketplaces, and the other thing that plays into this is this whole enterprise connectivity, meaning businesses starting to utilize NFTs in real use case, real utility. When that occurs, many people think, well, is that mainstream? Because ETH will benefit from mainstream adoption even if an enterprise application isn't using ETH, but they're using the architecture. So if you think about Starbucks and Polygon, if that thing blows up, remember, that's still just a beta test. That's just one of many, obviously, Artifact, Nike, so many that could be really taking ETH to the next level. What else do we have?
Let's see. So someone says bullish update with Evan. Oh, the irony here. Well, for the record, I wasn't that. Some of these altcoins that are going to hyperbolic, I said they could come up possibly a little bit more, but that's kind of a gamble. Overall sentiment,
I do not know why the crypto pit sends you those kind of questions.
Where's the big crash I was tell you about? So
now they're just throwing.
It'll happen. You got to be patient.
Darts are coming in. Darts. I tell you.
Now you're depressed. Well, there's going to be a good, opportunity in 6 to 12 months. Keep some cash in case I'm right.
Hey, listen. Mine has always been we look toward mid-year, and that was based on macro. If you look at the fundamentals of where the market could be, this 25K, it's something that we have to pay attention to. It's hit it 3 times in the last 10 days. That's the real question of whether or not it can hit 25 again. Because if Bitcoin cannot come back past, what is it, 25.3? That's our number?
Yeah, 25.3 would be the new high. I think we could even get up to the high 25s. There's a ton of liquidations there. If you get up to the high 25s, then come down. Yeah. So
we may see 25 again for some of you guys. Possibly. Maybe a short squeeze, like they're saying here.
Short squeeze to 28, less likely. If we could break above 25, it would be momentous. Maybe we could get there to 28. I'd only would give it a 30 or 20% chance, though. Probably even less.
Ooh. Yeah. Pain, I tell you. Pain, I tell you. Just remember, guys, check out Diamond Circle. Show the screen over here. This is our actual Substack. So you guys get all of this for free. This is built into it. You get our podcast, which is only available over on Diamond Circle. This is one that Kyle and I do. Sometimes we do it together. Most of the time we do solos. But you get that. We don't publish those anywhere else except over on Substack. So make sure and join. Just click the link down below. We are going to get you guys an Audius piece out, so be on the lookout for that, and we've got a lot lined up for the rest of the week. Of course, if you want to reach me, it's simple. Just hit me out there on Twitter. It's @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechBath.